ठीक है. ठीक, बाय. Hello, good morning students. In the series of discussing about some important questions related to SEBI Grade A, today we are going to discuss some questions related to research stream. So this slide shows the syllabus for paper 2 for phase 1 and phase 2. The syllabus is same, and discussing about some important questions related to, and here are 5 sections: economics, public economics, statistics and econometrics, international economics, financial financial and markets. So it was actually not known that how many questions from paper 2 will be there in the exam, and now it has been notified that there will be 50 questions from paper 2, and so let's look into the questions. First of all, you can reply the answers on the comment section. I will be seeing there. And first question that I am going to ask is related to the concept. The first question is the concept in economics that determines the relationship between nominal and real interest rate under the effect of inflation is known as. So the option for these questions are Phillips Curve and Keynesian effect, Fisher's effect, classical effect, and Adams effect. So which of the following is the right answer? You can write your answer in the comment section. I will be looking to your answer. I'll be waiting for your answer. So yes, Deepak, you are right. And Mohan, you are also. So the answer is actually Fisher's effect, and the reason for this asking this question is because many of the students usually get confused between these two equations, that which is the Fisher's effect, and when we talk about MV is equals to PT, it is usually the quantity theory of money. So if you see this equation and you see that then you have to reply the quantity theory of money. But when we are talking about nominal interest rate, real interest rate, and inflation rate of inflation relationship between these three, then it is the Fisher's equation. So in the second equation, which is Fisher's equation of quantity theory of money, so here M represents the money supply, V represents the velocity of circulation, and P is the price level, and T is the transaction. And usually we do not get the data, it is very difficult to obtain data on the transactions, and therefore we replace it with the national income. So it is, in spite of T, it is usually Y. So MV is equals to PY is the equation for quantity theory of money. Second question is related to the markets, and under the perfect competition, the supply curve is identified as which of the following? See the options very carefully and reply accordingly. So whether it is the rising portion of the marginal cost curve, whether it is the rising portion of the average total cost curve, whether it is the rising portion of the average variable cost curve, or whether it is portion of marginal cost curve that is above the average variable cost curve, and the option E is the supply curve is fixed under perfect competition. That is, we do not worry about the supply curve and it is usually fixed under the perfect competition. So which of the following is the right answer? So one of the student is asking about what is perfect competition. When there are the main characteristics of a perfect competition market is when there are lots of producers, means lots of suppliers and lots of buyers. So in that situation nobody can affect the price, nobody has a power to change the prices. This is the basic characteristic of a mushroom. This is the basic characteristic of a perfect competition, and many of you have replied it right, like so it is actually the D option, that is the portion of the marginal cost curve that is above the average variable cost curve. So this is the supply curve for a perfect competition market, and this is a quite important question and that is usually asked. So coming to the next question, an increase in tax rate should move which of the following? So whether it is IS curve, means IS curve will move to the left, IS curve will move to the right, LM curve will move to the left, LM curve will move to the right, and there will be no shift in the IS and LM curve. So which of the following is a right answer? I will be waiting for your reply. There are also other characteristics, Masram, related to perfect competition, and yes, and let's see. Okay. I'm waiting for your reply, guys. Kamini, D, E, A. So there are some wrong answers and there are some right answers from you. So the answer actually is A. Just remember it, like when we talk about the fiscal policies, it leads to change in the IS curve, and when we talk about the monetary policies, they lead to shift or change in the LM curve. So when we talk about tax rate, change in tax rate, so it will lead to change in the IS curve. So we definitely are going to ruling out the option C, D, and okay, so C and D are not going to be the answer of this question. So now we have to see whether it will be A or B. So when there is increase in the tax rate, so people will be having people will tend to say, means they will be paying more tax if in direct taxes are increasing, and that is why what will happen, the saving and the investment will decrease, and thus the IS curve will shift to the left, and therefore the answer actually is A. Okay, it is understood or not? Means this is clear. Just remember it like that, when there is any discussion related to IS curve, LM curve and shift in them, just look into that whether they are talking about the monetary policy and fiscal policy. If the question is focusing on the monetary policy, means it is indicating that there is change in the monetary policy, then it will be changing the LM curve. not the IS curve. And when we're talking about the fiscal policy, like when there is change in the expenditure of the government, when there is change in the tax rate, then it will affect the IS curve, not the LM curve. So it will be easy for you to reply then if you remember this concept. Okay, so next question here is the sum of which of the following is equal to 1. So the answer for this are MPC, APC, MPC and APC, and MPC and APS, and MPC and MPS, APS and MPS, and none of these. Which of the following is the right answer? Means sum of which of the following is equal to 1. Okay, what is the full form of MPC and what is the full form of, what are these full forms? If anybody know. Okay, most of you have replied C, and Prakash have replied B. What is the full form of it? MPC. Yes, it is marginal propensity to consume, and APC is marginal propensity to consume, and if we talk average propensity to consume, if we talk about MPS, it is marginal propensity to save. Okay, and APS is average propensity to save. So what is marginal propensity to save or marginal propensity to consume? Means how you calculate it? What is the formula for calculating MPC? डेफिनेशन भी बोल सकते हो आप लोग कि व्हाट इज मेंट बाय एमपीसी. Okay, I'm moving forward and I'll look for your replies, and the answer for this is actually the C option, that is marginal propensity to consume plus marginal propensity to save. If we add these two terms, then it will be equal to 1. So another change in consumption to the change in income. Yes, it is actually the marginal propensity to consume. The change in consumption with the change in income indicates the marginal propensity to consume, and the marginal propensity to save is indicated by the change in savings as per the change in the income. Okay, and when Masram, when we talk about APC, it is consumption upon total income. It is not talking about the change. Okay, so because here we are talking about average, means when we talk about APC and APS, then we are saying about the average. When we talk about marginal, it is actually the change. Okay, so the marginal propensity to consume means the change in the consumption with the change in the income, and the change in the saving with the change in income. The sum of these two is always equal to 1. Okay, and this one is quite important question. The incidence of which of the following will entirely be on a monopolist? So the lump sum tax, the specific tax, the regulated monopoly tax, all of the above, or none of the above. So which of the following is the right answer for this? For answering this, you should have a understanding about what is means by incidence of tax, and what happens to the cost curve in the lump sum tax, what happens to the cost curves in the specific tax. No, so it's not D. Deepak, yes, it is actually A. And anybody of you can reply that, give me the reason that why it is actually A. Why it is lump sum tax? Why not a specific tax? No, Ranjan, it's not B. Yes, so let me reply for you. So why the incidence of a lump sum tax fall on a monopolist? Because when we talk of lump sum tax, it actually affects the fixed cost of a, it act just like a fixed cost for a producer or a monopolist. Then there is no change in the marginal cost curve, and that is why there is no change in the prices. And if the effect of tax is not reflected in change in the price, then it is not going to affect the consumer. That is why the lump sum tax, that is actually the fixed amount that is to be charged on a producer, is act as a fixed cost. And when there is change in the fixed cost, and if it is not reflecting in the prices, then it will be, obviously it is going to be beared by the producer. And so if we here we are talking of monopolist, so if he is the one who is going to bear the burden of the tax. So incidence of tax means who is going to bear the burden of the tax, right? So in case of lump sum tax, this is the situation. And there are so many questions that can be framed from this particular topic, that on whom the incidence of the tax will fall upon. So for giving you a brief, the demand and the supply elasticity ultimately will help us to know who will bear the burden of the tax, or incidence of the tax will fall upon whom. So if when we talk about the elasticity of demand and supply, if the demand is elastic, it means if there is change in the price and I am the buyer, I can change with the increase in the price, there will be change in my demand, okay, because the demand is elastic, and I can change it accordingly. But then in that situation, the burden of the tax will fall upon the supplier, not on the buyer. But when there is inelastic demand, then the burden of the tax will be on the buyer, because I cannot change the commodity demanded. I cannot change my necessity, means if I need something and I have to buy, in that situation means I cannot alter my demand. And in that situation, the I am means buyer is the one whom the incidence of the tax will fall upon. And likewise, when we talk about elastic supply and inelastic supply, when the supply is elastic, means the producer can change the quantity supplied, and with the change in the price, and then in that case, then he will be the one, means the buyer will be the one whom the incidence of tax will fall upon. And in case of inelastic supply, where the producer cannot adjust the supply, in that situation the producer will be the one who will bear the burden of the tax. So you have to keep in mind these four conditions. Then what happens when when there is elastic demand, what happens when there is inelastic demand, what happens when there is elastic supply and inelastic supplies. Okay, so this should be clear in your mind, that whom the incidence of tax will fall upon, right? And likewise, there are other factors like prices, time, cost, and nature of tax and market structure, in who that determines the incidence of the tax, means whom the burden of the tax will fall upon. If the change in the if there is no change in the price, then there will be no effect on the buyer. And if there is time to change the production, if there is time to change the level of production, means when we're talking about long run, and producer can change the production level, and in that situation there will be chances of there will be elastic supply. In that case, the consumer will be the one who will be the bear the burden of the tax. And likewise, we talk about cost, whether the industry is increasing cost industry, decreasing cost industry. And when we talk about nature of tax, then whether it is direct tax or indirect tax. So indirect tax, the incidence we cannot shift, means I am the one, if tax is implied on me, I will be the one who will be paying the tax. It cannot be shifted. And when we talk of indirect tax, so incidence is all about comes when we talk of indirect taxes, the incidence of tax will fall on that only, means in case of direct tax we will not talk about the incidence of tax, right? Because the indirect taxes we cannot shift the burden of tax, while in indirect taxes we can shift the burden of the taxes. And when we talk about market structure, then in perfectly competitive market, means when there is perfect competition, the price won't be affected, right? And in that situation there will not be any change in the prices, and the incidence will fall ultimately upon the supplier. So these, from this only topic, there can be so many questions that can be framed. And coming to the sixth question, the Phillips curve is a graphical depiction of the positive relationship between inflation and output, negative relationship between inflation and CPI, negative relationship between inflation and unemployment, and negative relationship between unemployment and output, positive relationship between GDP and unemployment. So which of the following is the right answer? Okay, yes. So when we talk about Phillips curve, we talk about there is a trade-off between the inflation and unemployment. Means if you have to reduce the unemployment in an economy, you have to bear some amount of inflation, right? So this is the graphical representation of the Phillips curve. Here on the x-axis the percentage of unemployment is there, and on the y-axis the inflation rate. So when we talk about at higher rate of inflation, you can see there is less amount of unemployment in the economy. So right, so Phillips curve shows the trade-off between the inflation and unemployment. So all of you have replied it right. So this is an important topic, Phillips curve. And in order to reduce the inequality, the government should adopt which type of taxation? Okay, so progressive taxation system, proportional taxation system, regressive or degressive, or none of these. So which of the following is the right answer? Okay, so many of you have replied progressive and many of you have replied proportional. So you know about progressive taxation system or proportional taxation system. Actually the answer is progressive taxation system the government should adopt. And why? What happens in the progressive and regressive and proportional tax rate system? When we talk about proportional tax rate system, what happens in it? the tax rate remain constant, means with the change, it is not like with a change in income, with an increase in income there is change in the taxation. Okay, and when we talk about progressive tax, then it happens that when the income is increasing, that tax rate is also increasing, right? And when we talk of regressive, it is just opposite of progressive taxation system. In regressive taxation system, with the increase in the income, the tax rate decreases. And when we talk about digressive, it is actually a mixture of this progressive and proportional taxation system. In it, the tax rate initially increases, then it becomes constant. Okay, so here, so you have to think about it. In the proportional, with the increase in income, there is no change in the tax rate. But when we talk of progressive tax, with the increase in income, there is increase in the tax rate. Means the higher income group people are paying more tax rate. So in that way, it will bring more equality, income equality, right? So the right answer for this question is progressive tax. Okay. And yes, this type of question might come from this exam, that which of the taxation system, means proportional, progressive, regressive or digressive, is based upon the taxer's ability to pay. Then the answer from this is also the progressive taxation system. Actually, Masram, we usually say that the indirect taxes are regressive in nature. And it is not like that somebody used to follow regressive taxes. But usually I was reading somewhere that it is said that the indirect taxes are regressive in nature, if we see the comparison between the direct and indirect taxes. Okay, so actually this is a graph showing the progressive tax, that what happens to the tax rate and with the change in income. You can see that progressive taxes, for it is rising, and for digressive taxes, it is rising initially, then it is becoming a flat line. And when we talk of proportional taxes, it is same for all the income group. And for regressive taxes, it is with the rise in income, the tax rate is decreasing. Yes, this is quite interesting. When k is equals to 1, then what will be the value of MPC? Means it will be greater than 0, less than 1, and equal to 1, equal to 0, and none of these. K actually is multiplier. When actually k is 1, how you calculate it multiplier? K is equals to 1 upon 1 minus MPC. So in that situation, if MPC is if k is equals to 1, then the marginal propensity to consume is 0. Okay, so k is multiplier, value of multiplier. Okay, only Suyash has replied. Shivangi, A, D. Yes, so the answer is D. Okay, this is quite interesting question. Which of the following is not a probability sampling technique? So simple random sampling, stratified sampling, cluster sampling, quota sampling, or systematic sampling. So which is not, means I am highlighting it, not a probability sampling technique. Priyanka, K is the value of multiplier, no? Okay, for 9, many of you have replied D and B. Okay, so most of you have replied D. Yes, actually, it is D only. Usually, most of the students get confused between whether it is systematic sampling and quota sampling. But when we talk about the sampling techniques, the probability sampling techniques comprises of simple random sampling. Systematic sampling is also a part of probability sampling. Then stratified sampling and cluster sampling. And then when we talk about non-probability sampling, then in it that there are lots of sampling techniques besides these also, but main are snowball sampling, quota sampling, convenience sampling, judgment sampling. So what happens in the probability sampling, the chance probability of each sampling unit is equal of, means there is some probability of getting selected. The sampling units have some probability of getting selection, but in non-probability sampling we are selecting as per a decided criteria. Okay, and so based on this sampling, some questions can be framed like in a snowball sampling. Some question can be come that when we use snowball sampling, so snowball sampling is used in a situation when we do not have means many we do not know more about the population, means we do not know about more of the sample, means how to collect, how we are going to collect the sample. You can for example, if there are some trials, then if I am the person, I am contacting a single person that is related to a particular trial, then I am asking him then whether you know somebody else who is also involved in that trial, because I do not know more about the particular population who is falling into that criteria, means for whom I want to collect the sample. I just know that I want to collect a sample for this particular population, but I do not know where from where I can find those. Okay, so this is a method when which is adopted in this type of situation, in difficult situation where we do not know how to find our sampling units. So I contact one person, then from that particular person I get contact of another person, then he might get he might give contact of 2 or 3 more person. So in that way it is just sort of a chain. So that is why the name is snowball sampling. Okay, and you might know about the judgment sampling and also about the convenience sampling, right? So from this topic, one question, means one or two questions, one question definitely going to be there related to sampling, and it is quite interesting. And usually students, what happens with the student, they thought that this sampling is quite easy and we do not have to look into this, but I'll suggest you to please go through the sampling once, at least go through it once. Okay, there can be questions related to sampling errors, means in what type of sample there are sampling errors. Okay, how to reduce the sampling errors and non-sampling errors, there can be questions from that too. Okay, for sampling errors, you can reduce the sampling errors by increasing the number of the selected units. Means you increase the sample, the sampling errors will be decreased. But the non-sampling errors are actually that if you are making a note about, if you are collecting data and you have a personal bias and you are influencing the respondent, means you are putting words into its mouth, नहीं ऐसा ही होता है क्या, आप ऐसा बोल दोगे, तो he might, his particular response might vary. Okay, so in case of when we talk about social economic, means socio-economic surveys, so in that case non-sampling errors are more. If you are typing data into the laptop and you are feeding the data and you have some typo errors, so अभी ये सब नॉन सैम्पलिंग एरर्स हो जाती हैं. बट सैम्पलिंग एरर्स वी कैन रिड्यूस बाय इंक्रीजिंग द साइज ऑफ द सैम्पल. और एक और चीज़ होती है, जो सैम्पलिंग एरर्स और नॉन सैम्पलिंग एरर्स होती हैं, दोज आर मोर. मतलब अगर हम पॉपुलेशन सर्वे करते हैं तो दोज आर मोर. सैम्पलिंग में अगर आप रॉन्ग सैम्पलिंग टेक्निक अगर चूज़ कर लोगे तो भी देयर इज़ एन एरर. Okay, so you have to be more careful about choosing the particular sampling technique. The sample should be more representative, and likewise there are so many things that can be discussed related to these sampling errors and non-sampling errors. Okay, so next question is the mean distribution. If you, the mean of a distribution is 53, the median is 54 and mode is 55.5. so what type of distribution will it be? Means symmetric होगा, positive होगा, negative होगा. So yes, so it will be a negatively skewed distribution. And if we see in the, I think you all know about it, that when we talk about the symmetric distribution, in that mean, median, modes are equal. And when we talk about positively skewed, in that mean is actually more. And when we talk about negatively, in that mean is less. Okay. So which of the following, actually this is quite interesting question, which of the following is the best, following describes best type 2 error. Okay, so type 1 and type 2 error are quite important and usually asked. So defining null hypothesis incorrectly, not defining the null hypothesis, rejecting a null hypothesis when it is true, accepting a null hypothesis when it is false. So all of the above represents type 2 error. I'm waiting for your answer. The answer actually is Ranjan, actually you are wrong, and usually students get confused in these two types of error. The answer actually is D, and the method to remember it is then the type 2 error is most problematic error. Now I am receiving the right answers. D. Yes, so type 2 error actually is the most problematic error when we compare type, when relative to type 1 error, because in type 1 error what will happen, we when a hypothesis, null hypothesis is true and we are rejecting that, so in that situation it is not affecting our decision that much, but it is actually not into that much a problem. But when we accept a false hypothesis, then it becomes a more problematic situation. Like if I'm giving you an example, that if we are trying to find out a drug for a particular problem and means disease, then what happens if we are selecting a wrong medicine, means wrong drug we are selecting, then in that situation it will be very harmful. Okay, for it will be more harmful, means अगर हम गलत चीज़ को choose कर लेंगे तो then it will be a more harmful situation. So just try to remember it like that, and more questions can be formed from this. There are four situations that can happen, that based on the acceptance and rejection, and what happens when it is true or false. So hypothesis, null hypothesis can be true or it can be false. So either we can reject it or we can accept it. Okay, so if it is false also, there can be these two situations, rejection and acceptance, right? अभी यहाँ पे क्या होता है, अगर हम ट्रू को एक्सेप्ट कर लेते हैं, अगर इफ नल हाइपोथेसिस इज ट्रू एंड वी आर एक्सेप्टिंग द नल हाइपोथेसिस, देन इट इज नॉट अ problematic situation, and we are rejecting a false hypothesis, then also it is not a problem. But what happens when the hypothesis is true and we are rejecting it? So it is actually a type 1 error, and if we are, a false hypothesis is there and we are accepting it, then it is a type 2 error. Okay, so type 1 error को हम अल्फा से दिखाते हैं, and when we talk about type 2 error उसे हम बीटा से दिखाते हैं. Okay, so alpha also denotes the level of significance, and when we talk about the type 2 error, beta denotes the probability of occurrence of type 2 error is denoted by beta. So 1 minus beta actually is power of test, and what it indicates that you are accepting null hypothesis when it is true. And if we talk about 1 minus alpha, then it is known as confidence coefficient. It indicates that you are rejecting a null hypothesis when it is false, so it is a confidence coefficient. Okay, so question can be from this, that what indicates power of test, and what is meant by power of test, what is confidence coefficient, and related to also level of significance. And type 1 and type 2 errors are quite important terms in econometrics or stats, so go through these and try to look into the concept of it. So coming to the 12th question, find the correlation coefficient if the two regression coefficient are 0.5 and 4.5. So what is the answer for it? 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 2.25, 0.09. So you do not have to calculate, you do have to remember the formula to calculate it. Okay, so how we calculate the regression coefficient? We calculate it, actually it is the under root of these two regression coefficient. Then r is equals to under root of the regression coefficients of x on y and y on x. So those two are given to you, and if you calculate it, then it will be 1.5. Okay, so this type of question from correlation coefficient might be there. They can ask about the range of correlation coefficient, they can ask about the other formulas related to it, that how you calculate the correlation coefficient using the covariance and the covariance. If you are given with the covariance of between the x and y, and you have a standard deviation of x, and if you have a standard deviation of y, how you are going to calculate the correlation coefficient. So such type of less time required, but means formula related questions can be there. And if the arithmetic mean is 26.8, the median is 27.9, then the value of mode, how you are going to calculate it. Actually, it is also a formula based question. So for calculating it, the formula is mode is equals to 3 median minus 2 mean. So from that formula you can calculate it. There can be a question that what is the relationship between these two, which of the formula is correct, and means it will not be a very calculation required question, means lot of calculation required question, but sort of less time required and calculation required question might be there. Okay, so the answer for this is C. Coming to the next question, who is the current managing director and chief of IMF? So which of the following is the right answer? Yes, actually most of you have replied it right. It's C. Okay, Geeta Gopinath is chief economic advisor, actually, who have replied. Okay, B, chief economic advisor, I'm saying. Okay, and C is the right answer for the current managing director and chief of IMF. So this sort of question from might come that and the organization setup related questions can also be there. And next question that is quite interesting, that the support given in form of direct payments, decoupled income supports, deficiency payments, single payments, etc. falls under which box? Green box, blue box, amber box, red box, or all? Yes, Ranjan, Geeta Gopinath is chief economic advisor. So what is the right answer for this question? 15th. Actually, boxes are quite important when we talk about it. International economics mein. And actually it is quite confusing to go through that what is consisting in green box, what is consisted in blue box, what do you mean by amber box. Okay, so the answer for this question is, yes, Sainath, it's B, the blue box. When we talk of green box, it is mostly related to the subsidies that are confined to research and development and others. Okay, so production based subsidies and all that comes under the green box. When we talk about direct payments, though these subsidies come under the blue box subsidies. Okay, so these actually are the boxes. So in blue box, production limiting programs actually are there. And when we talk about green box, these are actually the minimum trade distorting subsidies. And there is a amber box, that is red box. So these are the trade distorting subsidies. Okay, so when we talk about WTO, this is quite important. Okay, that what types of boxes are there and what subsidies fall under what. Okay, so which of the following accounts under the balance of payment, which of the following accounts under balance of payment record the FTA received by a country? So whether it is capital account, current account, financial account, balance of trade, or any of the above, depending upon the industry of investment. Means कितना investment होगा, depending upon that it is fall on that, किस industry में investment हो रहा है. No, Ravinder, actually it is not now capital account, it is now financial account, and it records about the FDI payments, and the three accounts are current account, capital account, and the financial account. So all the transactions related to direct investments, portfolio investment, other sorts of investments, the recording transactions related to that falls under the financial accounts. Okay, and when we talk about the capital account, then if there is a transaction of land and all, means non performing assets, then that comes under the capital account. Next question is related to SEBI started regulating commodity exchange from which of the following year? So 2005, 2008, 2010, 12 or 15, which of the following is right answer? No, actually. The answer for this question is yes, Ravindra, is 2015. Okay, so before that the commodity market was regulated by FMC, and after 2015 it was regulated by the SEBI. Yes, Ravindra, you are right. Okay, so which amongst the following is a stock market index of United Kingdoms? So which of the following is the right answer? Okay, Sainath, actually you are right, it's actually B. And what it stands for? It stands for Financial Times Stock Exchange 100 Index, and it is also known as FTSE, and it comprises of the share index of 100 companies that are listed on the London Stock Exchange that have the highest market capitalization. Okay. Okay. So this index shows about the prosperity of business. Okay, and there are various indices also that can be asked, that for US which of the indexes there are, for European regions, for France, for Germany, Japan, Hong Kong, South Korea, and China. Likewise that there are some others also. Okay, so coming to the next question. And dash would seek out price discrepancy between stock listed on more than one exchange by buying the undervalued shares on one exchange while selling the same number of overvalued shares on another exchange, thus capturing risk-free profits as the prices on the two exchange coverage. So what is the right answer for this? Are they arbitrage, okay, speculators, hedgers, bearish investors, or none of the above? So yes, most of you have replied it right. So it is actually the arbitrager, and you should know the difference between the arbitrager hedger. Means the arbitrager are the one who takes profit, means if there is difference between the prices of two market. Okay, and hedger tend to avoid the risk. Then what is their tendency? So based on that you should know the difference, because usually students confuses between these three. Okay, so the last question for today's session is, in November 2020 SEBI introduced new flexi cap category in mutual funds, right? So they are required to invest at least how much of their total output corpus in equities across large, mid and small cap stocks. So whether 25, 50, 65, 75, 85. I was thinking that 25% will be the answer of most of you. So the right answer for this is actually 65. So actually it was to allocate. Actually what happened, most of you have replied 25 because it is said that it is mandated to have minimum 25% allocation to each capital stocks. Okay, but here the answer actually is for means the at least they are invested to, they are required to invest 65%, but for each of these they separately have to do 25% allocation. That is in September 2020 it was mandated. Okay, so this was all from my side today, and with you can go to our website, try the free mock test, and you can buy our courses, and we have expert faculty with us. And if you haven't subscribed the channel yet, please go and subscribe it and press the bell icon for the further notification. Thank you and all the best for your exams.